The sun was merciless that Texas afternoon, casting long shadows over cracked sidewalks and fences swollen with heat. Evie Marlowe stood at the edge of the Rodriguez family's backyard, watching the birthday party unfold like a memory she wasn't truly part of. Balloons swayed in the wind. Children squealed around a makeshift piñata. Somewhere in the background, salsa music competed with cicadas. At 60, Evie still held herself with a quiet kind of dignity, a posture carved not just by age but by grief. Her eyes, slightly clouded with time, were sharp as ever, always scanning, always searching. Her husband Walter stood nearby, chatting with the neighborhood men as if time hadn't built a canyon between now and the last time they laughed like that. Then it happened. A man Evie didn't recognize stepped onto the patio, holding the hand of a young boy no more than 8. "Sorry we're late," he called out casually. "Something came up at home." His son immediately slipped from his grasp and darted toward the other children. Evie's world froze. The boy's overalls, green checkered with bright yellow straps, shimmered like an echo from another life. His dark curly hair bounced as he ran, just like Lucas's had, just like all 3 of them. Lucas, Noah, Gabriel, a name stuck in her throat, unspoken, too dangerous to breathe aloud. Without thinking, she crossed the yard, cutting through the party like a phantom. Her heart beat faster than it had in years. She touched the boy's shoulder and turned him gently around. "Where did you get those clothes?" Her voice was soft, trembling. The child's eyes widened. He stumbled back, ran to his father. "Daddy, she scared me," he cried. The man approached, wary but not hostile. "Is everything okay?" Evie stood rooted. She pointed again, her fingers trembling just above the boy's overalls. "Those clothes, they look exactly like the ones my boys wore." Walter was at her side in seconds, placing a steadying hand on her arm. "I'm sorry," he told the man. "My wife didn't mean any harm. It's just, our sons disappeared 30 years ago. They were triplets, and they wore overalls just like those." The backyard went quiet. Conversations dropped like marbles on tile. The boy's father softened. "I had no idea," he said. "We just moved here a few months ago. I bought those at a department store, maybe Target. I don't really remember." Evie's voice cracked. "Can I just look at the tag, just the label?" Walter gently pulled her back. "Evie, that's not Lucas." "I know," she whispered, but her eyes wouldn't leave the child. "But I have to see, just once." The party host, Mrs. Rodriguez, stepped forward. "It's true. Her sons disappeared in 1981. We all searched for weeks. Everyone did, we never found them." Walter nodded to the man apologetically and guided Evie out of the yard. Back home, he brewed her tea as she sat in silence on the sofa. Her eyes were glassy. "I scared him," she murmured. "I didn't mean to. When I saw those clothes, I was back there. June 12th, 1981. Walter touched her hand. "You were having a panic attack, it's okay." "No, I need to see the photo. The one with them in those overalls." He hesitated. "It's in the attic, that box we haven't opened in 20 years. "Please," she whispered. Walter sighed and went to retrieve it. The cardboard box was heavier than he remembered. He set it down, and together they opened it like it contained holy relics. 3 small baseball gloves, identical teddy bears with missing eyes, a homework sheet with a gold star still taped to the corner, and finally, the photo album. Page by page, they flipped through time: first birthdays, beach trips, a snowman built in matching scarves. And then the photo: 3 boys, green overalls, yellow straps, long sleeves. Arms around each other, grinning with that specific kind of joy only 6-year-olds can muster. "This," Walter said quietly, "this was the last picture, taken the morning they vanished." Evie leaned in closer. "Something's different." Walter furrowed his brow. The boy today, the green was brighter, the lines were thinner, hours were heavier, older, vintage, but still so close. Walter said nothing. They sat in silence, staring at the photo. Until Evie pointed suddenly at the background. "Look, there, on the left." A car, rusty red, boxy, familiar. Walter leaned in. "Is that the Cadillac?" Evie's voice was a whisper. "Lucas loved that car, and it belonged to Mr. Howard Fielding, their teacher." "But he moved away before they disappeared," Walter said. "Didn't he?" Evie turned the photo over. "No date written." "No," she said. "He didn't leave until after. I remember. I threw him a going-away party at the school. It was a week after, but if this was taken the morning of..." She fell silent. Something cold passed between them, as if time had just cracked a little. Walter went back into the box, rummaging until he found the original codec envelope. The processing date, June 14, 1981, 2 days after the boys went missing. They looked at each other, both pale now. Evie whispered, "He was there, that morning, he never left town." And then, like a buried ember sparking back to flame, Evie's mind started to race. She stood, gripping the photo. "I need to call Louise Mitchell," she said, moving toward the phone. She worked with the school board. "She'll know where Howard Fielding went after he left." Walter stood too. "Evie, wait, it could be a coincidence." But her voice had already changed, firmer, clearer. "What if it's not?" She didn't wait for an answer. She had already dialed. The moment Evie ended the call with Louise, something shifted inside her, not panic, not fear, but a terrible certainty. She opened her laptop with trembling fingers and typed Howard's Haven for Hope. The website was plain, almost too plain, with smiling children framed against golden fields, all Hispanic or mixed race, all dark-haired, sun-warmed eyes full of staged hope. No phone number, just an email. And in the corner under Founder, a familiar name, Howard E. Fielding, former educator. There was a photo, too. Much older now, white-haired, eyes shaded by a wide-brimmed hat, but unmistakably the same man who had once crouched beside Lucas with a book about dinosaurs. Evie's chest tightened. She grabbed her phone and called Walter. "I found him," she said. "It's Howard. He runs a farm for immigrant kids outside Eagle Pass." Walter was cautious, trying to calm her, but Evie was already putting on her shoes. "We're going," she said, "now." They met at the clinic where Walter had just finished his checkup. He looked shaken as she explained what Louise had told her. "And this," Evie said, handing him the flyer she got at the bus stop. "Agricultural fair. Today, there's an auction, just down the road from his farm." Walter didn't need more convincing. An hour later, their sedan rattled over gravel as they turned into a wide dirt path marked by a crooked sign. Howard's Haven for Hope. The farm was quiet, too quiet. Fences stretched toward the tree line and the main house sat heavy in the heat. As they stepped out, a young man approached, tan skin, muscular arms, early 20s. "Can I help you?" he asked. "We're friends of Mr. Fielding," Walter said. "From when he was a teacher, just wanted to say hello." The young man nodded politely. "He's not here, he's at the county fair. Took some of the kids for the auction." Evie's heart sank, but before she could speak, Walter added, "Would it be okay if we looked around, just for a moment?" A quick phone call later, the young man smiled. "Sure, I can give you a short tour." He showed them the livestock pens, the greenhouses, the classroom shed, speaking proudly of the work they did with immigrant boys. Then they reached a brightly painted barn covered in children's artwork, suns, cows, messy stick figures, and one striking image that stopped Evie cold. A red Cadillac, shimmering with glued rice, perfectly drawn, detailed like no child's hand could manage. "Who made this?" she asked. "I did," said a voice behind her. A man had entered. Late 30s, maybe 40, curly black hair. Pale skin, a broad, familiar smile that seemed to split time in half. "I'm Ferdinand," he said, wiping his hands. "Activity coordinator." Evie stared. The smile, the voice, the mannerisms, it was also familiar. "I've been here since I was 6, Ferdinand said proudly. "Mr. Howard saved me." Evie felt like she couldn't breathe. "Do you have any siblings?" she asked. Ferdinand chuckled. "Yeah, a brother, he's at the fair today." Then he added casually, "We're twins." Evie gripped Walter's hand behind her back. As they walked back toward the car, the world around her seemed to blur. The sun, the trees, the dirt under her feet. "He has a twin," she whispered. "Walter, if they're twins, there must be a third." Walter looked at her, his jaw tight. "Evie," but she cut him off. "We have to go to the auction, right now." Walter nodded once, without a word. They climbed back into the car, and Evie kept the photo of the boys in her lap, her thumb tracing their faces again and again. "That drawing wasn't made by a child," she whispered. "It was made by one of them." Walter drove faster now. "You think Ferdinand is Lucas?" "I don't know," she said. "But I'm sure of this, that smile, that's my son's smile, and I'm not letting them disappear again." The county fair was alive with music, laughter, and the scent of fried food, but Evie barely noticed. Her eyes scanned every tent, every child, every man with curly dark hair. Walter kept pace beside her, one hand always lightly touching her back, a silent promise to keep her grounded. They followed the map toward the Howard's Haven stall, a modest tent lined with pamphlets and donation jars. And there, just as Louise's memory had hinted, stood Howard Fielding. Time had changed him, but not enough. His gestures, his voice, the slight squint of his eyes when speaking, it was him. Evie hung back as Walter approached first, his tone polite. "Mr. Fielding." Howard turned, friendly but cautious. "Yes, I'm Walter Marlowe," he said. "And this is my wife, Evie." A flicker of recognition passed over Howard's face like a shadow at sunset. Evie stepped forward, holding up the photograph. "You remember our boys, don't you?" she asked. "Lucas, Noah, Gabriel. The Marlowe triplets, you taught them." This photo was taken the morning they disappeared. Howard's smile faltered. He stared at the photo for a long time. "I remember them," he said slowly. "Terrible tragedy. I was heartbroken when I heard." "But you weren't gone yet," Evie said, her voice tightening. "You said you left town before they vanished, but your car, the Cadillac, it's in this photo. You were still there." Something shifted in Howard's eyes. Not guilt, not yet, but calculation. "It must be a mistake," he said, handing the photo back. "You must be confused." Walter placed a hand on Evie's arm, but she stepped closer. "You see, Mr. Fielding," she said softly, "the problem is I never forget a face, or a car, and I think you know exactly what happened that day." Howard glanced behind him, then turned back with a smile so forced it was nearly a grimace. "If you'll excuse me, I have a performance to coordinate." As he walked away, Evie heard him mutter into his phone. "Get Diego, now." The name hit her like a crack of thunder. "Diego," she repeated, tugging Walter's sleeve. "That's the twin Ferdinand mentioned." They moved quickly through the fair, weaving between booths, Evie's heart hammering in her chest. And then she saw him. A man in his mid-30s, curly dark hair, broad smile, walking quickly toward Howard. "There," she whispered. "Walter, look." The resemblance to Ferdinand was stunning. Same walk, same profile, same posture. "They're not twins," she said. "They're triplets." She began walking, not running, toward the two men, but Walter stopped her. "Evie, if that's true, where's the third?" Evie froze. She hadn't even thought of that. Gabriel, the smallest, the quietest, the one with the gentle eyes and bruised knees. "Let's find out," she said. They returned to the Haven booth where an older man was packing brochures. "Excuse me," Evie asked. "Ferdinand and Diego, are they twins?" The man chuckled. "Oh no, they're triplets. Third one's named Marco, works at the estate. Doesn't come to the fair much." Evie went cold. Marco, a name that had never belonged to any of her boys, a name assigned to erase Gabriel. "Do you know where the estate is?" she asked, too quickly. The man shook his head. "Private property. Mr. Fielding doesn't share the location." Evie nodded, stepping back. Her hands trembled as she looked at Walter. "Walter," she whispered. "It's them, all three of them, they're alive." Walter pulled her close, his voice shaking. "We call the police." "Right now." As he reached for his phone, Evie stepped away, scanning the crowd again, but the booth was empty. Howard and Diego were gone. "They're running," she said. "He's taking them away again." Walter dialed 911 with trembling fingers. "Yes," he said. "We believe we've found our missing children, triplets, abducted in 1981. The man who took them is trying to flee." Evie listened to Walter speak with the dispatcher, her heart thundering in her ears. "Don't let them disappear again," she whispered. "Not this time." By the time the sheriff's vehicles skidded into the gravel lot of Howard's Haven, the sun was low, casting long golden shadows that stretched like fingers across the dusty road. Walter kept the engine idling, hidden behind a line of trees, while Evie pressed the phone against her ear, still on the line with Detective Martinez. "They're loading bags into the Cadillac," she whispered. "Howard, Ferdinand, and Diego. They're leaving." "Stay in your vehicle," came the calm but firm reply. "Units are en route, do not engage." But Evie already knew she wouldn't obey that instruction. As the Cadillac reversed out of the barn's side path, two patrol SUVs blocked the exit. Doors flew open, and armed deputies approached the vehicle. Howard stepped out slowly, arms raised, confusion painted across his face like an actor unsure of his lines. Ferdinand and Diego followed, slower, their eyes darting with bewilderment, not fear, not defiance, just a haunting uncertainty. Evie couldn't wait another second. She pushed the door open and ran, her voice cutting through the thick country air like a blade. "Stop, wait, I need to show you something." Walter called after her but didn't try to stop her. She reached the deputies, pulled the photo from her purse, and held it high. This picture, this is my proof. These are my sons. Lucas, Noah, and Gabriel. They disappeared from our front yard in 1981. Look at them, green checkered overalls, yellow straps, you see. She turned the photo to Ferdinand and Diego. That's you. And the third, your brother, he's not here, but he's out there, isn't he? The two men stepped forward cautiously. Ferdinand took the photo, his hands trembled. That's me, he said softly. And that's Marco. Diego leaned in, stunned. How is this possible? Howard's voice cracked behind them. I didn't steal them, I saved them. They were left alone, unwanted, they needed someone. The deputy moved quickly, cuffing him. You'll explain that to a judge. Ferdinand turned to Howard, eyes wide with betrayal. You told us our parents were in prison, that we were born in Mexico, that they didn't want us. That was a lie, Evie said, stepping closer, her voice barely holding. You were never unwanted, you were never abandoned. We searched for you every single day. At that moment, everything shifted. Ferdinand's breath caught. Diego's legs gave way, and he sat heavily on the bumper of the patrol car. Walter arrived beside Evie, placing a hand on her shoulder. They're ours, he said, his voice filled with quiet certainty. I knew it the moment I saw the drawing of that Cadillac. It wasn't long before officers from the second location, Howard's so-called private estate, called in. They'd found Marco. He was alive, confused. Surrounded by young children, all under 10, mostly undocumented and traumatized, Evie's knees buckled. Gabriel, she whispered. Is he okay? Physically fine, the officer said. Emotionally, it's too early to say. Later, at the police station, the three men entered the interview room slowly. No longer strangers, no longer hidden behind names that weren't theirs. They stood in the doorway, hesitant. Men, yes, but behind their adult faces, Evie still saw the boys who once cried over scraped knees, begged for another story at bedtime, and argued over who got the last cookie. Lucas, she said. He stepped forward, eyes wet. Noah, he reached out, his voice cracking. Gabriel, and the youngest, Marco, no longer, dropped his guard and let the tears fall as he walked into his mother's arms. They held each other, 5 figures locked in a silent circle of grief and restoration. Walter's voice finally broke the silence. You were taken from us, but you were never forgotten. Ferdinand, Lucas looked up. We never knew. All these years, we thought we were someone else. Evie touched their cheeks, memorizing every line. Now you know who you are, you're ours. Outside the station, the Texas night deepened. The stars blinked overhead, ancient and indifferent, but something beneath them had changed. In the harsh, fluorescent light of a police interview room, a family once shattered had begun, finally, to be made whole again.